Here the world of men ended, and the world of ghosts began. Look at the horizon, where yellow dust devours the faded sky. This isn't just a line on the landscape, it's the trace of panic that civilization left on the Earth's surface. The ancients believed that beyond this boundary, the laws of nature ceased to function. There, in the Great Steppe, live not people, but those who recognize no boundaries. That is why the wall was never just a pile of stones. It became the cry of a settled world, terrified to death by infinity. We are used to seeing the Great Wall as a postcard, as a symbol. But today, we will descend lower, to where this line ceases to be a landmark and transforms into a tombstone, the longest in human history. Let's immediately dispel a myth. The Great Wall is not visible from space. From above, it looks like an unevenness in the terrain, but the scale changes when you stand at its base. Here, it's not a line, it's a fault line, a stone dragon biting its own tail. It was an attempt to stop time and protect themselves from what they feared most: chaos. And if you watch this story to the end, you'll understand why this wall looked inward from the very beginning. The history of the wall is not a story of engineering triumph. It's a chronicle of state fear. It appeared where the monsoon rains end and the Great Steppe begins. The climatic boundary became a mental chasm. On one side, a settled world of order and ritual. On the other, a space where the horizon is more important than boundaries. The settled people lived by harvest cycles. Fields were marked out with right angles. Cities resembled cells. A person was born and died on the same patch of land, believing that the wall around their home, city, and country were forms of the same protection. Peace through control. The North lived differently. They didn't build walls there because they saw no point in them. Their home was a yurt, their wealth a herd, their temple the sky. To an official in silks, the nomad was a demon. To a steppe dweller, the peasant seemed like a slave to the soil. It was a conflict of philosophies, a heavy empire against a mobile force of nature. The emperors realized that emptiness could not be conquered, so they decided to wall themselves off. The wall was conceived as a filter between civilization and barbarism. But any wall has a second function. It's needed not only to keep strangers out, it's also needed to keep one's own people in. When taxes became unbearable, peasants looked to the north. Life there was short but free, without census takers, without overseers. The wall ensured that taxpayers remained within the system. It was not only a shield, it was a cage. At the end of the 2nd century BCE, one man united the disparate kingdoms. The first emperor destroyed the internal walls, depriving the people of protection from authority, and connected the northern ramparts into a single line. He had no limits, no time to spare. There was only one thing the empire always had in abundance: people. The rammed earth technology was primitive and ruthless. Wooden formwork, clay, sand, stones, and hundreds of hands with heavy ramming tools, blow after blow, day after day, until the earth began to ring. This sound echoed across the steppe like the heartbeat of a dying giant. Everyone was sent to the construction site: criminals, disgraced scholars, peasants who couldn't pay their taxes. Here, a person ceased to be an individual. They became a disposable mechanism. In winter, the wind flayed the skin. In summer, dust clogged the lungs. Death was not considered a tragedy. It was merely a pause in the work. Legends say that those who died were entombed within the wall. The engineers were pragmatists. Decomposing flesh would have destroyed the monolith. The truth was simpler and more terrifying. Bodies were thrown into nearby trenches, trampled and used as fill. This is indeed the longest cemetery in the world. It was then that the story of Meng Jiang-nu was born. A woman traveled thousands of li to bring warm clothes to her husband, only to learn that he had long since become part of the earth. She wept for so long that the rampart cracked. This is not a fairy tale. It is an allegory. The people saw the wall not as a symbol of greatness, but as a monument to tyranny. The emperor dreamed of eternity. Its earthen serpent began to spread almost immediately after the fall of the dynasty. The wall didn't stop the north, but it changed the south. It instilled dangerous ideas in China. Security always demands sacrifices. In the late Middle Ages, a new dynasty decided, enough with clay. The empire needs armor. Thus began the most ambitious construction project in human history. The wall became a machine: bricks, towers, roads. But the main secret of its strength wasn't hidden in the stone. Sticky rice was added to the mortar. While peasants starved, grain went into the masonry. The empire cemented its security with the food of its subjects. The mountains became a communication line. Smoke by day, fire by night. Signals traveled faster than any rider. It was the empire's analog internet. But the system devoured those who maintained it. Soldiers gazed north for years. Before them, emptiness. Behind them, a country that had forgotten them. Walls don't fall from battering rams. They fall when someone inside grows weary and opens the gates. The nomads understood this. Stone doesn't fight, people do. And the people were hungry and corruptible. Gold proved stronger than a siege. In the mid-15th century, it all ended. A general at the northern pass found himself caught between a burning capital and the northern army, and he made a choice. The bolts slid open. The most expensive defensive system in history was simply opened from within. The conquerors entered not as enemies, but as guests. The wall, built for defense, became a ceremonial entrance. The new power quickly realized, a fence isn't needed if you own the land on both sides of it. The wall was abandoned. Peasants dismantled it for barns and pigsties. A hungry person doesn't eat legends. In the 20th century, there were calls to completely destroy the wall, but history loves irony. The country needed a myth. The ruins were transformed into a sanctuary. A military failure became a cultural triumph. Today, millions of tourists walk along its battlements, unaware that beneath their feet lies not a symbol of grandeur, but layers of fear, toil, and blood. This is not a monument to defense, it is a monument to isolation. We still build walls of concrete, of visas, of digital codes. We believe that if we build higher barriers, problems will disappear. But the wind respects no borders. It doesn't storm, it waits. The Great Wall stands not as proof of strength, but as a reminder. Any wall is merely a postponement. Betrayal will come, time will come, or simply the indifference of eternity. Stone remains, empires vanish, and the wind still wanders over the ruins of our ambitions. We have seen how fear builds walls, but history knows other examples of madness. Where should we go next? Should we unravel the mysteries of the Egyptian pyramids, stone by stone, or descend into the jungles to the lost cities of the Maya? Vote in the comments. Your choice will determine our next itinerary.